I used to be a surveillance investigator for insurance claims, work injury stuff. To see if people who claimed to have been injured at work and were collecting money, were actually injured or not. I did this full-time for about 10 years. Doing a new case every few days for 10 years, you see a lot of weird things. For example, one time I saw drug dealers in a downtown city literally riding horseback. You see scary stuff too, obviously, if in bad neighborhoods. Scariest encounter went down about 20 years ago. In this case it was a somewhat rural area, which was always the toughest. You get there at 6 a.m. and see what cars are in the vicinity, then run the plates to see if they match the person. You mostly watch for the registered vehicle to depart if you found one. This place had one car in the driveway. You are also provided an age/height/weight of the person and in rare cases a picture. So I knew this was a man in his mid-30s, average height and weight. On the first day it turned out he left before I got there. Protocol is if you can't confirm they are home by 10 a.m., which is 4 hours on site, you literally need to knock on their door to confirm if they are home. You usually pretend to be a delivery driver in a costume and a dollar store item in an envelope with a clipboard. Surprisingly, that works. Anyway, no one was home. On the second day I came back at 5 a.m., and this time there was a second vehicle in the driveway, a truck, with no plates. The man came out around 5:30 a.m. and left. I followed him, but he immediately got wise and knew he was being followed, which usually means they are up to something shady like working while collecting disability money or insurance fraud. I let him go while trying to be discreet about it. I came back the third day in another car, which sometimes you had to do. This time he left again early and I successfully followed him to a farm in the neighboring rural hills. I caught him on video doing heavy-duty farm work for several hours. He eventually noticed me and realized he was being watched. I took off from my parked position and thought there was no way he could suddenly get off his tractor, run to his truck and get to me, as there were driveways between us and also a creek. Somehow he was then suddenly on my tail in his truck in some unfamiliar rural mountain roads. I was panicking and kept driving, and somehow I made it to the freeway. On the freeway he followed me for miles and I couldn't shake him. He would pull beside me at times and flex his arm and gesture for me to pull over. He was pretty scary looking and I had evidence on him that would cost him in more ways than one. I called 911 and reported a drunk driver endangering me, but was surprisingly told the officers were in between shifts and couldn't help. After many miles I finally was able to shake him, but he remained pretty close behind. I exited the freeway and found a gas station. A cop was there and I reported this guy and his truck. The cop made a call and I didn't see this guy pull up. Shortly thereafter I gassed up my car and left and drove home and submitted my report. I'm sure his fire insurance money ended at the very least. The scariest part for me is that I was worried this guy had my license plate and could run it somehow and locate where I live. I began to research him online. Sometimes when you're in this line of work you learn that potential insurance fraud being committed by the person you are following is the least of their criminal endeavors. Well, I discovered that this guy was a convicted felon who had been in federal prison and had gang affiliations, as well as being a known user and dealer of hard drugs. I was scared, but nothing ever happened over the next few years and I eventually forgot about it. But about 5 years later or so, I had a case in the same rural area again and I thought about this guy. I wanted to look him up to see what the police database revealed about him in the last few years. I searched him up online and discovered he was actually dead. Apparently a couple years prior he had taken his girlfriend hostage with a gun, killed someone who tried to help her, and then was killed himself by another person who saved her. I don't need to worry about meeting him again.